Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 26.1 to the public. iOS 26.1 is available around the world at the same time for everyone on all iOS 26 supported devices. If you're not seeing the update, you can find it under your settings, and you'll find it under General and then Software Update. If you're still not seeing the update, back out, go back into Software Update, and you should see it here. Now this update does contain many new features and changes, as well as bug fixes and more, so if you want to jump to any specific part of the video, be sure to check out the chapters in the description below. Now the first thing they've updated has to do with liquid glass. Many people haven't been really happy about it, so you now have the option under display and brightness and then liquid glass to change it from clear to tinted. So under clear, you'll see here sort of a demonstration of it. However, I have one here on the left that has tinted icons, and the one on the right here has clear setup. So if we go into music, you'll see here as we scroll down, on the right is the clear icons or the clear menus. On the left is tinted. So it's sort of a frosted or tinted icon now, or menu bar. And this carries across to other things as well, whether it's the media player or your notifications. So if we go back in, and on the left, on the home screen or lock screen, it's tinted with the music widget, and on the right, it's sort of a clear icon. This carries across throughout, however, it does not carry across to things such as the control center. The control center has been updated to be a little bit more bouncy again. They've changed this throughout iOS, and it looks like it's more bouncy with its animations, but the overall clear and tinted icons carry across to notifications and different menus. Also, they've toned down the HDR Glow. So what I mean by that is if we go into Messages, at the bottom of Messages, if you tap in the input area, you'll see as I tap, it's sort of toned down. It was very bright before. I, again, wish there was an option for this, as I sort of liked it before, but again, now it's toned down. There's another change that has to do with updates in the future. If we go to Settings, scroll down to Privacy and Security, scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see Background Security Improvements. This is an all-new feature where you can automatically install background security improvements, which provide additional protection to your iPhone in between software updates. Now, this is something we had before with Rapid Security Response, but Apple only used it about 2 times, so maybe we'll see them utilize this a little bit more with security improvements in between major iOS updates. Apple has also updated music in iOS 26.1. The first thing is Auto Mix. It now works over AirPlay according to Apple, and we can go into our settings for music here. We'll just go over using a shortcut, and if we scroll down, you'll see that we have song transitions and Auto Mix. If you're using this and you're AirPlaying, the Auto Mix should now carry across to that. Also, if we go back into music, we now have some new options how to change tracks. So you'll see here we have this track. If I swipe, we can go to the next, again to the next, or we can go back. Either way works. It also works in the mini player here as well. So we can just swipe back and forth and go to the forward or backward in our song. Apple has added a new option in iOS 26.1 that I think many people will appreciate. If we lock the iPhone, and we're on our lock screen here, we can swipe from the edge to go into our camera. Many people don't like this, and you can now turn it off. So you'll see we can swipe to open the camera, but if we want to turn it off, we go into our settings, go down to camera, swipe to the bottom, and you'll see lock screen swipe to open camera. Swipe left on the lock screen to quickly access the camera. If we turn it off, lock the screen, go to our lock screen, you can no longer do this by mistake or even by swiping. You now have to go into your camera icon if you have it set, or utilize camera control or another button. Under Settings, under Display and Brightness, Apple has added the iOS 26 wallpaper finally to the appearance. Also, they've added this at the bottom under Display Zoom, so I'm not sure what took them so long, but they finally added it for iOS 26. Also, there's some new options for phone. If we go into our settings, we'll go down to Apps, and this time Phone. And if we scroll down in our phone options, you'll see a new option for haptics. It says play haptics when a call is connected or dropped. You can now disable this if you don't like it, so that it will no longer shake your phone when you pick up the phone or hang up the phone. There's also a change in the phone app itself. Within the phone, there's now liquid glass icons. So before, these were sort of gray. Now they're liquid glass or clear. So you can see that here, where they've just updated it to change the way it looks, and it will match whatever background it's on. Back within Settings, if we go down to General, Scroll down a little bit, you'll see there's a new option for local capture. Now we had the option to do this in the control center before, but now we have the option to save the location. So we can pick downloads or another location, and also we could save audio only. But it says add local capture to control center to record your own audio and video during a call to save and edit later. So we did have the control in the control center before, but now if you're on a call and you want to save and edit it, you can do that and pick where you want to save it. Now, if we go into the clock app, within clock, if we go under alarms, and we'll set one for about a minute or so. Now that the alarm is sounding, in order to cancel the alarm, we have to slide to stop now. So it's no longer just a single tap. However, you can change this if you'd like. There's a setting within accessibility where you can change it so you only still have to tap it once. You can find that under touch. So under accessibility and then touch, if we scroll down here, you'll see that we have the option to prefer single touch actions. It says prefer that user interface items require a single touch instead of a sliding action. With this enabled, if we set the alarm again, you'll see now the alarm is sounding again. We can just tap stop. So if you don't like the slide to stop your alarm, be sure to turn on that option under accessibility. Another thing that's updated has to do with the actual clock face itself. So you'll see if you have clock widgets or the clock icon, the overall second hand is just a sweeping motion. However, they've updated this. If you turn on low power mode, that it now turns into a ticking motion. So it's more like a mechanical watch where it's slowed down. But if you switch back, turn off low power mode, it will go back to a sweeping motion. So it's just a nice visual change that they've made in iOS 26.1. If we go into settings and go back to accessibility, under display and text size, we have two different changes. One of them is show borders. So if you want borders on your icons, you can enable that. And they've also changed it so that increased contrast is a little bit more contrasty, but it doesn't necessarily add borders to everything. So we now have that option if you want both or just one of those options. So it's a really nice change to increase contrast as well as the border option. If we go into the fitness app and then we go to the workout menu, within workouts in the upper right, we can now create or add our own custom workout. We can select the type of workout, everything from archery to badminton. If we keep scrolling down, you'll see hiking, hunting, and we can find things such as an outdoor run, sailing, and just about any workout you can imagine. So keep scrolling and you'll see as I select different ones, the options change that are relevant to that workout. So if we go to indoor walk, it changed and it shows you things such as active calories, duration, and start. If we go into photos, there's a couple changes here as well. If we go into a video, this is a video I recorded walking on a trail in the woods, you'll see the player is a little different at the bottom. If I grab this to select a specific portion of the video, it also gives us additional detail and looks a little bit different. Also, if we press and hold on something here, maybe a photo or a video, they've moved delete up to the top and changed the context menu a little bit. Also, there's a little bit more liquid glass at the bottom with library and collection, and the menus are slightly different as well as far as the overall orders. So some small changes here. The video one is the biggest one. If we go into settings, one thing you may have already noticed that they've made a change to has to do with the description of menus. So you'll see general here, everything is left justified. So it looks a little bit different, the icon's a little bit different size, and it talks about what the menu is for. You'll see that under accessibility or anything that has a description here, it's all left justified. There's also a change within notes. If we go into notes and you'll see we have a note here, we can press and tap on it to see something such as our additional options with paste, delete, and others, but we can swipe now to bring up the context menu. So now when you select something, again, maybe we'll select here, swipe again, and you can bring up the context menu. It's a small change, but just makes it easier to get into. Another change has to do with screenshots. If we take a screenshot, go into the screenshot, you'll see none of the menu items or anything around it covers the actual screenshot itself. This is also true when you save it to photos, go into the photo, and then go to edit it. It's no longer covering everything. The menu items are below it and above it, no longer over the top of it. If we go into settings, go down to Apple Intelligence and Siri, we now have some new language options here. So within languages, there's 8 additionals available. So we have Danish, Dutch, Norwegian, Portuguese, Swedish, Turkish, Vietnamese, and Chinese. So you can see that here as we scroll through, you'll have all of those different options for languages. Those languages also carry across to the translation app. Not all of them necessarily, but if we go into translation, So within the Translate app, if we select a language here at the top, you'll see we have additional options now. So we have Chinese Mandarin Simplified, Chinese Mandarin Traditional, as well as Dutch, English, French, German, Hindi, Indonesian, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Polish, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, Thai, Turkish, Ukrainian, and Vietnamese. So all of those are options. However, not all of those options carry across to live translation. That's where you can use your AirPods along with your iPhone to translate live. So you'll see as far as the languages, we have many of them. So again, Chinese Mandarin Simplified, Chinese Mandarin Traditional, English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, and Spanish. So those are the only options so far with the live translate. Maybe they'll add additional ones in future updates. If we go into the calculator, we have a small update there as well. So within the calculator, wait for it to open. In the upper left, we now have a new history button. So tap on it and you can see history of anything that you've been calculating. So that's a slight change. It just makes it easier to access. Also, one thing you may have already noticed is the TV app icon is a little bit different. They've updated it and they've so far already changed this to TV, not TV Plus. And if we go into it, at least at the time of this video, it still says Apple TV Plus. So maybe they'll update that in the near future, but so far it's just Apple TV, but the icon itself has been updated. Within settings, if we go down to sound and haptics, there's a small change here where if you have silent mode activated, it's now red instead of green. So just like everything else where it's typically green, they've now made the change to red. If we go into the App Store, within your account, you'll see that we have 4 different arrows here for apps, subscriptions, purchase history, and notifications. They're now blue instead of white. So they've just updated it a little bit to make them more apparent. Back within settings, and if we go down to screen time, if you're managing a child account, you'll see that communication safety and web content filters to limit adult websites are now enabled by default for existing child accounts for ages 13 to 17. Now this varies by country or region as far as the overall age, but it should be enabled by default now, but you can go in and turn this off if you'd like. So you have the option to just disable it if you don't want it enabled, but it is there and enabled by default now. Within the Apple Vision Pro app, there's an update as well. Within the Vision Pro app, if you select Vision Pro on the bottom, you'll see at the top we have a nice 3D model of an Apple Vision Pro. It's a small visual change, but it is a change in 26.1. If we go into Mail, they've made a small change here. If you're using your own domain or email account that's outside of maybe Gmail or iCloud, it's going to start showing you logos for different companies that send you emails. So you can see one here for Nomad. It doesn't show for everyone just yet, but it is showing up for quite a few of them now. With iPadOS 26.1, Apple has brought back slide over. Now you will need to be in the windowed mode, so that can be found under multitasking and gestures, and then windowed apps. So as long as you're in the windowed mode, maybe we'll open up Safari here, and if we want this to be a slide over window, press and hold on your little traffic signal in the upper left or 3 dots and go into Enter Slide Over. Now you have a slide over window, and you can slide it off to the side. You'll see a little arrow here so you can bring it back. So it's not exactly the same as everything else, but it has been updated, again, to enter slide over, and then it will swap the apps, or you can press and hold to get out of this. So again, press and hold, try that again, exit slide over, and now you're back. Now I have my AirPods connected to my iPad, and maybe we want to use them as an external microphone. We'll record video with the camera, and then if we go into this, so let's switch over to video, we'll go into our control center, and then go to our camera controls, we can select AirPods Pro 3. Now as we switch between, sometimes you have the option to adjust the gain. You'll see it's very buggy for me as it just sort of jumps onto the screen and then disappears. But if you have a microphone, you should be able to switch between that. However, it's not fully giving me the option to do that here. And that brings me to bugs and bug fixes. So definitely an odd issue when you're connecting audio and trying to edit the overall gain. It's sort of a little buggy there, but they did fix quite a few things. For example, one of the visual things they changed or fixed has to do with your lock screen and customizing your wallpaper. So if we go to change the clock here, you'll see that the window, in order to do that, now matches the overall curvature of the edges of your phone. So the corner radius is correct now, where before this was just off the screen completely. So they've updated that. They've also improved FaceTime audio quality with low bandwidth conditions, and notifications seem to be working for most people. For example, many people were having issues with YouTube where notifications just weren't coming in properly, and they seem to be actually showing up. So many of the odd notification bugs seem to be fixed, and many of the odd bugs, such as maybe going to the app library, tapping to search, it's now instant, where before it was very slow and buggy. So that's been resolved in this update and is much better. When it comes to Apple CarPlay, many people have told me that it's fixed most of their issues they had with iOS 26.0.1. Overall connectivity is better when it comes to that, and in general it seems to be working for most people. Originally we had some disconnects and things like that, but it seems like it's fixed for the majority of cars. Specific makes sometimes have some issues, but overall it seems to have been resolved. But let me know your experience with it in the comments below. One thing they haven't resolved is the wallpaper bug. This is something I've mentioned continually. Some people suggest it's a feature, but you'll see it's nice and vibrant here. If I swipe home, it desaturates a bit or dims a little bit. It's on its most vibrant setting. I've tried every little thing you can try in order to get this to work properly, but they just don't match entirely. So sometimes with other updates it seems to be fixed, and then with this one it doesn't. We also expect some security updates. Now at the time of this video, Apple hasn't updated their website with it, but typically we'll get many different security updates. So be sure to check this out. I'll link it in the description, as we do expect quite a few security updates with it, and we'll talk about that with the weekend follow-up video as well. As far as other releases, well, iOS 26.0.2 definitely seems like it's canceled, so no option of it there since we have iOS 26.1. However, I would expect iOS 26.2 Beta 1 as soon as tomorrow. Typically after the release of a public release, we'll get another beta within the same week. If we don't see it this week, we'll see it the following week. Of course, we'll have a few different betas there, and probably iOS 26.2 will be the last public release until the new year. So that's typically what they do. If you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.1, well, for those of us that have been testing the betas and the release candidate, I would highly recommend it. It's a huge improvement on iOS 26.0.1. That includes older devices as well. It seems to be much more stable, and while you still probably will have some odd visual glitches here and there, it's much, much better. Performance, for example, this is on an iPhone 11 running iOS 26.1, seems to be generally pretty fast. Slight delays here and there, just because the processor's a little bit slower, but generally fast overall. So for example, going into music, we're just waiting for it to load. You'll see a little bit of stutter there. I would expect an improvement over 26.0.1, and the same is true for overall heat. My phones have stayed nice and cool since iOS 26.1, so let me show you that with a thermal camera. And you'll see iOS 26.1 on the iPhone Air, just sitting idle is around about 31 degrees Celsius or so. On the iPhone 17 Pro Max, it's barely even registering much heat, around 26 degrees Celsius. So definitely doing very well, just sitting idle. And even when you're using it, it seems much, much better than it was before. When it comes to battery life, I've experienced much better battery life. So let's go ahead and take a look. If we go into settings, then go to battery and battery health, I'm at 100% capacity with 37 cycles. If we take a look at overall usage, well, it definitely improved from iOS 26.0.1. So currently, the other day I had 2 hours and 49 minutes of screen active time, 7 hours and 53 minutes of screen idle time, and that's on an iPhone Air. So typically when I was with iOS 26.0.1, I was getting about 2.5 hours of screen on time. With this update, I'm seeing more along the lines of 4.5 to 5 hours of screen on time, sometimes 6 hours, as you can see here. So if we go back to usage, you'll see 6.5 hours at 91% usage, depending on the overall usage in the day. So in general, it's been getting me through the day no problem. On the iPhone 17 Pro Max or any with a much larger battery, it should definitely be an improvement. When it comes to the benchmarks, in general, those are pretty good as well. So we'll go into Geekbench 6 and let's take a look. So on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, as I mentioned in the weekend follow-up with the RC version, it was the best I'd ever seen. 10,171 for multi-core, 3,957 for single-core. I even had some people send in even higher scores on the 17 Pro Max. That means it's using its full potential. It's well within the margin of error. Some people have seen 9,000 or 10,000, but definitely very fast, and the overall experience definitely reflects that. So I'm seeing great great speeds and changes all throughout. However, there are occasional hiccups here and there, so just keep that in mind, but give it a few days for it to sort of process everything in the background and then speed up. So that's everything for iOS 26.1. We'll go into even more detail in the weekend follow-up, so be sure to check back for that. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.